What do you mean multiple namesakes? Ibig sabihin si Gina Acosta has a lot of aliases given?
Your Honor, she may have had many kaparehong pangalan, Your Honor. Gina F. Acosta.
Kaparehong
Yes,
pangalan.
opo.
Oo.
Hence, the Bureau of Immigration requested for birthplace or any other distinguishing detail to be provided in order to obtain specific records for Ms. Gina F. Acosta of the OVP.
Mr. Chair, mukhang maraming pera to mga to dahil nagda-travel palagi. You know? Kaya uulitin ko po, uulitin ko, Mr. Chair, sapagkat medyo alam nyo, hindi rin nakakatuwa na makita na 4 na beses nang inimbitahan to. Samantalang nakalagay sa rules natin, 2 beses lang eh. And then afterwards, you could be able to issue a contempt order, no? Pero ito pang-4 na kayong hindi naka-attend, pang-5 ng imbitasyon to. So nakikita nyo ang kabaitan ng Committee on Good Government na pinapangunahan ni Congressman Joel Chua. So nais kong sabihin ulit, itong si Zuleika Lopez, Emmanuel Gonzaga Ortoño, Rosalyn Ladores Sanchez, Gina Acosta, Julieta Villa del Rey, Edward Fajarda, Sunshine Chari Fajarda, huwag nyo naman kami hamunin ang committee ito na mag-issue na kami ng contempt order sa inyo. Sana mag-attend na kayo. Ngayon pong inibitahan kayo ng pang-5 beses. Sapagkat alam ko naman, Mr. Chair, nakikinig itong mga taong to eh. Hindi naman sila ignorante sa hearing na ito. Nakikinig po sila dito. At kung narinig niyo po kami, nananawagan po kami sa inyo. Mag-attend na kayo sa next hearing po natin. At inyo na tanggapin ang aming pagiging mabait sa inyo so far, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, may I be recognized?
Congressman Alonto.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just a quick manifestation as well, just to re-echo the sentiment of our colleagues here, Chairman Abante. Mr. Chair, I noticed also the position paper that was sent to us by these resource persons that we have invited, that they have cited the Calida versus Trillanes case as ruled by the Supreme Court. Mr. Chair, there's no portion in that ruling of the Supreme Court where it says that the invitation of a certain individual may not appear in the committee proceedings. It merely imparts there in the ruling, Mr. Chair, that particular ruling by the Supreme Court, impart there that the Congress must, again, be conscious about the rights of the invited persons. Hindi ho nang sinasabi doon na may right na hindi pumunta. Wala pong doon sa ruling na yon, kasi yung pong in-invoke nila na ruling na yon sa kanilang response sa ating komite, na wala pong sinasabi doon sa ruling na yon na wag silang pumunta. In fact, ang sinasabi lang po doon ay nire-remind at sinasabi sa Congress na maging conscious tayo sa rights ng mga invited persons. In fact, Mr. Chair, refusal to attend a committee hearing, Mr. Chair, constitute a violation under the revised penal code dun po sa Article 150 na ang penalty nito ay arresto mayor. In fact, we are being given and recognized by the Supreme Court that we have the mandate as part of our oversight functions to really invite these persons and know exactly what, the issues at hand, yung expenditure ng public expenses. So I think alam nila yan kasi they have invoked this ruling by the Supreme Court and they have cited this ruling. I'm sure they have also consulted the lawyers. Kung if they keep on refusing attending these committee hearings, alam po ng mga abogado nila yan na in fact it's a under po dun sa revised penal code article number 150, talagang mayroon pong penalty dyan sa refusal doon sa mga invitation ng mga proper na binigyan ng mandato ng Constitution na mag-investigate at mag-inquire at mag-hold ng mga committee hearings such as what we're doing right now. So just to add context to the manifestation of Congressman Chairman Benny Abante po, na dapat po alam po nila yan because they have to consult their lawyers and they must appear before this committee hearing, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Congressman Manuel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in connection din doon, dahil more than one time sinight sa position paper ng mga opisyal ng Office of the Vice President yung Calida versus Trillanes noong 2019, Mr. Chair, it is very disappointing for public officials representing the second highest office sa bansa natin na chine-cherry pick ang mga desisyon ng Supreme Court. Mr. Chair, in addition sa nabanggit ng colleague natin, kaya naman tayo umabot sa subpoena ad testificandum at hindi na lamang simpleng imbitasyon kasi yung mga input na gusto nating makuha mula sa mga opisyal na pangalanan ay crucial na mga impormasyon at hindi na lamang optional or add-on na mga impormasyon in line with the topics of our investigation or inquiry. Tsaka Mr. Chair, hindi nila sinite na actually yung petisyon nung nag-file versus kung sino yung dapat sumagot. Mr. Chair, this Supreme Court petition was actually dismissed. Ibig sabihin, nag-favor yung Supreme Court doon sa kapangyarihan ng legislative bodies na mag-conduct talaga ng mga investigations in line with the legislation. Lalo na yung national budget ay isa yan sa pinagdedebatihan talaga ng mga batas dito sa ating bansa. And Mr. Chair, sa position paper kasi ang dami talagang palusot pero hindi pa maayos yung mga palusot na binibigay. At actually, lalo lang na ina-undermine at hindi nire-respeto yung trabaho ng mga mambabatas, kinakasyon na hindi ito in aid of legislation, wala daw jurisdiction yung committee, nasa Supreme Court na daw. Pero then again, maging yung Supreme Court, kinikilala nga yung ating responsibilidad. Kasi we owe it to the people na talakayin yung ganito mga topic, lalo na pera ng bayan nyo nakataya. And also, Mr. Chair, yung dinahilan din kasi daw natanggap yung letter, holiday, tapos may weekend pa, kaya late daw nabasa. Mr. Chair, we would like to remind these officials na dahil mga public official tayo, hindi dapat basta-basta ginagamit yung holiday or weekend bilang dahilan para i-neglect yung ating duty. Kasi tayo we have a standard, sapat yung minimum 3 calendar days for us to issue notices kapag magkakahiring tayo. So yun lang gusto nating reiterate, Mr. Chair, in support din sa mga nabanggit dahil sobra na itong actually nasa extent na rin po ng pagbabastos na sa mandato ng committee natin to conduct this investigation. Yun lang, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Congressman Abante.
tayo po ay nagpapasalamat kay Atty. Powa na yung ating pag-imbita sa kanya, palagi siya nandirito, no? At the fact that he worked as a spokesman of the Vice President before. Gusto ko lang tanungin sa kanya, kilala niya yung mga taon to Ito ba talaga mga ugali nito mga taon to? Palagay mo, Tony Chua, ito ba talaga ugali ng mga taong ito?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Your Honor,
Attorney Powa, you recognize.
I hope you would forgive me, but I cannot comment po on that. No? I'm sorry po.
Well, I'm just so glad, Mr. Chair, that Atty. Powa do not have this kind of an attitude also. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Mr. Chair.
Congressman Luis Toro.
Mr. Chair, to complete the arguments, our answer to the arguments which were raised by the OVP in their position paper, I wish to share the rules and the jurisprudence which were cited with respect to the argument on sub judice rule. Isa po sa mga dahilan na ginagamit ng OVP why they refuse to attend our inquiry in aid of legislation is the rule on sub judice. By this, we are prevented from making any comment or disclosures pertaining to judicial proceeding which may directly or indirectly impede, obstruct, or degrade the administration of justice. In Filipino, Mr. Chair, kapag ang subject matter is already pending in court, generally, we are precluded from making any comment. However, Mr. Chair, maliwanag po ang parameters when the sub judice rule may apply. And I wish to share, number 1, under Section 1 of the Rules on Inquiry in Aid of Legislation, the filing or pendency of a case before any court, tribunal, or quasi-judicial or administrative body shall not stop or abate any inquiry conducted to carry out a legislative process. Number 2, Mr. Chair, There is no pending court case or administrative appeal that involves the same subject matter of this hearing. I understand that there are pending petitions before the Supreme Court, but let us acknowledge that the subject matter of those petitions is the constitutionality of the grant of confidential fund to executive offices like the OVP and the DepEd. Whereas the subject matter of this investigation, Mr. Chair, is the utilization of the confidential fund. These are two different matters, Mr. Chair. And third, Mr. Chair, let us be aware of the jurisprudence on the case of Romero II versus Estrada. This is GR number 174105, promulgated on April 2, 2009, which essentially states ongoing judicial proceedings cannot preclude or hinder congressional hearings in aid of legislation. In this case, it was held that the mere filing of a criminal or an administrative complaint before a court should not automatically bar the conduct of legislative investigation. Otherwise, Mr. Chair, it would be extremely easy to subvert any intended inquiry by Congress through the convenient ploy of instituting a criminal or an administrative complaint. Surely, the exercise of sovereign legislative authority, of which the power of legislative inquiry is an essential component, cannot be made subordinate to a criminal or administrative investigation. In conclusion, Mr. Chair, there is no leg to stand on where the OVP can raise the rule on sub judice. I submit, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Congresswoman Luistro. Meron pa pong gusto mag-comment? Yes, Congressman Defensor, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to put to rest once and for all the issue of whether this is in aid of legislation. This is clearly in aid of legislation because ang pera na ginamit ng OVP at ng DepEd is funded and forms part of the single most important legislation passed by Congress every year, and that is the annual budget or the General Appropriations Act. Walang pwedeng magsabi na ang pondo na binibigay sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno kapag iniimbestigahan ng committee ito is not part of in aid of legislation because we legislate the funds that we give to all agencies and instrumentalities of government. And it is for us to determine through our oversight and this committee whether we will fund it again, whether we will repeal it, or whether we will not no longer fund these programs through these confidential and intelligence funds. So I hope that is clear to every Filipino na in aid of legislation ito kasi part ito ng annual budget or General Appropriations Act taon-taon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Congressman Abante, you're recognized.
I fully agree with Congresswoman Luistro and Congressman Defensor on what they said. Ito po ay pinapanood ng taong bayan na kinakailangan maunawaan po nila na itong pondong ito, whether confidential po ito o hindi, nagastos na po ito. Hindi pa ito gagastusin, nagastos na ho ito Ang nais nating malaman kung paano ito nagastos. Tungkulin po natin yan sa committee ito na alamin upang malaman po ng taong bayan na yung paggastos po ng pondo na nanggaling sa mga taxpayers ay tama at naaayon sa mandato na ibinigay sa office ng pangalawang Pangulo. Kaya nga po iniimbitahan natin itong mga taong ito na nakakaalam ng mga pondong ito. Ako naman po medyo naaawa na rin sa ating members ng COA na naririndi na sa mga katanungan natin. Talagang dapat pumunta na po ito. Kaya gusto ko rin i-air ang warning na ito muli. Pag hindi pa sila nagpunta sa panglimang pagkakataon, ako na po ay magmo-motion to issue a contempt order on them. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Your
Thank
Honor.
you,
Your
Congressman
Honor.
Abante.
May I be recognized?
Yes, COMSEC, you're
Your-
recognized.
Thank you, Your Honor. We recognize the presence of Honorable Ernesto M. Jonicio Jr., Member, 1st District of the City of Manila, as well as Honorable Jonathan Keith T. Flores, 2nd District of Bukidnon. Your Honor, present as well today are representatives from the Land Bank of the Philippines, AVP Nanita Camposano of the DOTC branch. Ma'am, may you please raise your hand? Present, Your Honor. DM Joyce L. Eclavea, DepEd branch. And Attorney Rafael Christopher L. Yap, Special Legal Concerns Department. Present, Your Honor. That's it.
Nakapag-take na po ba sila ng oath?
No, Your Honor, they are new invitees, Your Honor.
Yes, pwede po bang paki-administer yung oath, COMSEC?
From the representatives of the Land Bank, kindly stand up. Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this inquiry? So help you God. Thank you, Your Honor. The oath has been administered.
Thank you. We will now proceed to our next item in the agenda, the continuation of the deliberation. We will first call on the first interpellator, the Honorable Congressman Rog Gutierrez. Yes, you are first to interpellate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yung mga gusto pong, for a while, Congressman, yung mga gusto pa pong Congressman na magpalista lang po, lumapit lang po kay COMSEC. Thank you po. Please continue, Congressman Rog.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I just have a few questions based on the ARs that we've done. Given that this is already our 4th hearing, I'm sure COA is very much used to our questioning, and I hope they could indulge us some more. Actually, Mr. Chair, yung aking mga katanungan is supposedly directed to the Special Disbursement Officer of the OVP, because under my understanding, based on the joint memo, this would have been SDO Acosta's responsibility, because under this number 6.3.2, Section B, it is part of the Special Disbursing Officer's responsibility to maintain separate records of all transactions and to retain a certified copy or duplicate copy of the required supporting documents and reports on utilization. However, and my questioning is precisely on this, on the acknowledgement receipts attached as justification, yung documentary evidence presented. However, given that the SDO Acosta is not around, I guess we'll be forced to at least to get this some of the answers. I'll be forced to ask the COA. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to direct my questions perhaps to Attorney Camora from the ICFAO, if they would be so kind to indulge. Just as to add context po, no, Attorney Camora. We know po that the confidential funds are special in the sense that they respond to, they pertain to a certain purpose only allowable under the Joint Memo Circular. But this does not mean that this is a blank check po, no? It's not a blanket authority that it could be spent without justification. Would that be a fair statement po?
Attorney Camora, you're recognized.
That is correct po, Your Chair.
So,
Mr. Chair.
in line with that and in line with the requirements of the COA, you would ask actually for liquidation reports. Although it's special in the sense that it is directed only to the chairman of the COA, you still have the ICFAO to study this. And in fact, it is the ICFAO who gives the AOMs, the notice of disallowance, and the notice of credit in relation to confidential fund spending. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
So, Mr. Chair, given the, maybe no, I have a timeline again of the 2022 confidential fund usage of the OVP. If I understand correctly, it was dispersed within 11 days. This was for December of 2022, and the basis of the funds was a transfer from the contingent fund. But there was an AOM issued by your office. Anong date po nito?
Mr. Chair, the first AOM is dated September 14, 2023.
So for the 2022 confidential funds, September 2023 yung AOM. And the response by the Office of the Vice President was received around what time po kaya?
It was received by the ICFAO on October 19, 2023, Mr. Chair.
October 2023. And one of the findings there was insufficient the DEPs po, no? And this would be pertaining to, in support of the liquidation reports, yung ating mga acknowledgement receipts. Whereas compared to usual spending by government wherein we actually need official receipts, kapag ang pinag-uusapan po ay confidential or intelligence funds, because precisely confidential dapat yung usage nito, it is sufficient to submit acknowledgement receipts. Tama po ba?
Mr. Chair, since the requirement is documentary evidence of payment, not necessarily official receipt.
Correct.
So they could submit acknowledgement
Attorney Camora,
receipts.
pwede pong pakilakasan po ninyo yung boses ninyo.
Documentary evidence of payment po ang required sa joint circular. So the acknowledgement receipts are acceptable po.
Acceptable. Correct po, no? And I agree with that. So the acknowledgement receipts are acceptable. However, one of the findings of the AOM was kulang nga po yung DEPs. And this is pertaining to the acknowledgement receipts.
The first time na nag-liquidate po sila, wala po talagang submitted na DEPs.
Opo. So that's why you had the AOMs in September 2023. Part of the findings was the lack of the DEPs, precisely yung mga ARs natin. And then they answered in October 2023. When they filed in October 2023, was it already there, yung DEPs? Yung justification po nila?